everyone? Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Tuesday night. Here to talk about the NBA offseason and what's going on with everything. All right, I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries. On my right is Eric B. Mack. We are the host of the Hoops Rehab Show. You can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe and download and comment. If you're in the live chat, please comment. Let us know your thoughts on tonight's show, either through YouTube or Twitter. And then we also have our Instagram page as well, the Hoops Rehab Show. And then you can find us at our individual handles all over social media. And we will upload the podcast as soon as the show is over. And so you can download the podcast in the morning or if you missed this episode. All right, Eric, let's get it cracking. First, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Pretty good. Just watched the MLB All-Star game.
Oh, yeah?
It went to a home run derby to decide the winner. I thought that was pretty cool because it was, instead of going to extras, they did that. So thought that was pretty cool.
Is that first?
It's the first time ever. Yeah. I can't say I watched the whole game, but I was watching the end and the AL caught up in the ninth. And so I was kind of wondering, I remember that one time it ended in a tie like years ago. And they're like, we're not going to go into extras. We're going to do it's like a home run derby, like shootout kind of thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. But that's what I was doing tonight. And things are good. How about yourself?
Doing well, man. Let's get this show cracking. I wanted to get it going with the new NBA all-time top 100 list. Yep. And we have some surprises on the list, but in particular, in the top 10, Mr. Kobe Bryant is not in the top 10 of the greatest players ever. So what were your thoughts kind of when you saw this list? And do you think it's justified?
I kind of roughly went through the list. I mean, we know that when it was the 50th year of the NBA, they had like that top 50, but they would never rank them. It was just like the top 50 players. And then we most recently had the top 75. So this is kind of like obviously like unofficial, but official, just something to kind of create a buzz and something to talk about. And it is interesting now that it's actually like ranked. So yeah, it's for us Laker fans, for us Kobe fans, I didn't know where he was in the top 10, but I always kind of had in my mind Kobe is a top 10 all-time player. So he's right outside at 11. Obviously when you think that, you got to start right away thinking about who maybe like shouldn't be in the top 10. And obviously everybody's going to have their say, but I think of like a Larry Bird who we were just talking about, who I get it. If you probably watched him live, like you and I obviously really didn't, I know you would have a different perspective, and it's different eras. Like we only can kind of speak for the last, 30 years or whatever, 25, 30 years. Yeah. But I think Kobe's got to be in the top 10 somewhere. I'm not too sure who you take out, but someone that stands out might be Larry Bird. But top two, LeBron, Kobe, I thought that was kind of obvious. Some people may have LeBron rated lower. I think majority would have Kobe. But yeah, it's an interesting list for sure. What did you think about Kobe being out of the top 10 and just kind of in general?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. In general, I feel like over the years, Kobe has kind of fallen deeper into the conversation of, you used to kind of almost put him up there with the greatest to kind of ever do it. And I feel like he's kind of fallen from that category. And I'm trying to get an understanding of why, because he played 20 years. He's won 5 championships, and obviously he's one of the best scorers to ever do it. So when you look at his game, like there's no doubt in my mind that's a top 10 player. But when you look at who should be in there and who shouldn't, I mean, the person that jumped over him is Steph Curry. So that was already, the way the Bleacher Report did is they jumped him ahead of Kobe, essentially. And I think putting him ahead of him right now at this point in his career, I don't think it's justified yet. He does obviously have a 3-point record. He's changed the game forever, and he has 4 championships. But that's the person that I saw that kind of like stood out to me the most.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so many accolades. You can go any way, any direction. We know as time goes on, it's a fluid list, but according to that list, like you technically all those players that are in the top 10 can't really, you would imagine they can't fall back now, right? Because I guess a couple of them are still playing, but yeah, I mean, one could argue, obviously, Shaq, amazing player, dominant, right? And somebody may argue that Kobe Bryant's a better player than him too overall. 5 championships to 4, along with Curry with the 4. I mentioned Larry Bird before. I mean, he's obviously got all the accolades. He definitely was a great player. He wasn't even at the number 10 as you just mentioned, but yeah, I'm kind of looking through it. I mean, I have always had, being a Laker fan, I think Magic Johnson is probably like my, all-time favorite player. So him being number 4 it's kind of a bit of a surprise to me. He was amazing. He's just probably the best point guard ever. I know there's some arguments there, but him at a 4, good to see. I thought it was like, I don't know, when I thought of a list, I didn't think he'd be put there. Tim Duncan, I mean, hey, you cannot argue that. Shaq, as I mentioned, obviously Jordan, LeBron. Who was number 3? Sorry, the list that I look at, it's like has me go through all the. I mean, Will Chamberlain is at a 9 for crying out loud, right? And again, this is just opinionative, and there's no. It's what this group of writers thought.
Yeah, Kareem is at 3.
Kareem, I got you. That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
You got to put Kareem up there. He's always going to be in the top 3, pretty much. Him. It's going to be Jordan. It's going to be LeBron. And it's going to be Kareem in that top 3 for probably a long time, unless somebody like Steph Curry would never jump that high. I don't think in his career. I don't think he can do enough in the rest of his career to jump that high. And then if you look at next kind of best player that could, I mean, what is that? Maybe no. I mean, Giannis would never. It's really going to be a tough act. Because where they put KD?
I was wondering, like KD, Joker, and Giannis. Where?
So KD's at 13.
KD's at 13. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's
Joker's at 17.
Yeah, I think figure top
17. 20. So top 20 already.
I saw Luka at 50 something, 56, 57.
Yeah. Top 20 for Joker is pretty impressive because he's probably made a huge jump in the last 2-3 years, right? Well, obviously the MVPs that he's gotten, and he's won a championship. But yeah, I just don't see anybody ever cracking that top 3. Man, it's going to be a long time. I mean, somebody would have to be obviously an all-time leading scorer, be in that top 3 with Kareem, LeBron, to be that third one in that option. I mean, that would be like the way you would kind of crack that top 3. But yeah, I don't see anybody doing that. Probably for eternity, but for a long time.
Yeah. It's like, of course, never say never, but I mean, just the longevity. Like Jordan is Jordan, and he's the GOAT for sure. But LeBron and Kareem, they just have everything. They also have the longevity piece of it, the 2 top leading scorers. I mean, just the championships, the kind of what they meant for the game. Kareem hasn't really been. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say the nicest because I don't know him well, but he's like, since he's retired, like he hasn't been one of these guys that like have just been, in the limelight, right? He's kind of just more of a private person, and
sure.
But I mean, his game speaks for itself, and he was tremendous in UCLA. He was tremendous on the Bucks, and then definitely for the Lakers. So I cannot see anybody cracking that top 3. And then I think the rest is pretty fluid, man. Like, it's it's there's going to be an argument from all sides, right? I mean, people may argue Larry Bird should be higher. Some are going to say lower, depending on what era of basketball you watch, and let's be honest, like who you're a fan of too. So we're going to be a little bit biased towards Lakers, right? And so people that are Boston fans might think Larry Bird should be higher. But yeah, I wonder, like, I'm sure like Hakeem Olajuwon has got to be in top 20, right?
Yeah, he's number 12, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, he's right behind Kobe.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, right? It's like two different players, but it's you probably you just get a bunch of names down, you know who the best ones are, and I'm sure it was tough to come up with like the 90 to like 110, probably, right? There's some people in there. Like I saw Klay Thompson was 98. So I remember when they did the top 75, he was left out. And so,
yep.
He thought that was kind of a jab. And so I think his last, albeit injuries, I think his last few years has like dropped him a little bit, But when Klay was at his best, I would say he was probably top 100. It's just
at the time for sure.
Yeah. So guys like that, right? And you got to kind of look at not just the totality. You look at the totality in some instances, but in some, if a player had like 7, 8, like just really amazing years, I think that's enough to make the list.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to see, but there are 6 Lakers in the top 11 ever. So when people like want to understand why Laker fans are so crazy, it's because we pretty much always expect excellence and we always get superstars. And that's probably why we always have these rumors of who we're going to get and these fantasies of, combining Giannis, Luka, all Joker all together on one team, because that's what happens with the Lakers. There's usually pretty much a star on the team. So kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just there's always a star. The only time there wasn't was that basically 2003. Well, Kobe's was his last couple years. So 2014 to like 17 or something like that. Beyond that, there pretty much always was. And so it's always like, who's the next guy? And, right now it's Luka. But yep, damn. We said 5 out of the 6 out of the top 11, 5 out of 11?
6 out of the top 11.
Wow. Yeah. So that's why they're, an historic franchise, because they got a lot of big names that have done a lot of big things in the NBA.
Yep. And if you guys in the chat for the YouTube or Twitter, let us know your opinion on whether or not it's justified for Kobe to be outside the top 10. So let us know. Or any thoughts on the list in general. But let's get into the other heated topic of the summer, LeBron James and Lakers. So the Lakers had a couple summer league games over the last couple of days, and Mr. LeBron was at these games, and Dave McMenamin was at the game and kind of did this little sideline report and kind of got into what's been going, the back and forth of LeBron, Rich Paul, and the Lakers, and what the Lakers' feelings are, what the LeBron's camp is. And at the end of the piece, he asked LeBron whether or not he wanted to be interviewed, and he pretty much just said, I ain't got nothing to say. Essentially, like there's nothing to talk about. So what were your thoughts when you kind of heard that? And where do you think LeBron and the Lakers kind of stand right now?
I personally think that it's just funny because I just think it's a slow time of the year right now in basketball. And so, we're reaching where we know we're looking for any kind of information and things to talk about, and I think it's being provided right in front of us. And so I think it's just a little game of cat and mouse. I think the thoughts of this is an expiring contract, LeBron being a little uneasy about not being the number one guy, I think all that stuff is like definitely true. I mean, I guess he could have not gone to a Lakers summer game, but I think we know it was partly because or mainly because of Bronny, right, as well, because he was playing, I believe, right? He played in the games, or at least one of them. And so I think it's that, but I don't know, man. I think it's just kind of all noise right now until we hear something even more concrete. And I think it'd have to stem from someone that we know is kind of close to their camp. But it is definitely different than any other offseason the Lakers have had with LeBron, where it's just been, we haven't really had those discussions. Like, sure, we've said like, hey, we got to get players to kind of suit his needs. But yeah, it's definitely like I've mentioned a couple days ago, the dog days of summer. But yeah, do you think there's like anything to this, or is it just kind of go along the lines of what you've been talking about, where it's possible we could see a trade?
Yeah, I think as time goes on, the chances of him being traded are probably slimmer. And this whole kind of noise kind of subsides a little bit. I think he's disgruntled, though. I feel like he feels, the Lakers should have offered him a bigger contract, more of the 1-and-1 that he's always been getting, and they didn't. And I think that them putting Luka first without knowing that Luka is going to sign the extension has probably got him a little bit upset, knowing what he's done for the franchise, what he's done over the last couple of years, and knowing that he's still playing at an all NBA level. So I think like them kind of discrediting him, like is kind of left a sour taste in his mouth. The only problem is he just can't really make the moves that he would want to make unless he would have just said, I'm going to opt out and test free agency, which he chose not to, and he chose to take the money, right, and make sure he got the full salary. But in general, I think that there's just a little bit of both on both sides. I think it's like a tug of war. I think the Lakers are ready to kind of move on per se, and at the same time, I think LeBron's almost ready to kind of either move on. Who knows? This could be his last season playing. We just don't know that. And I don't think we will know that until probably, I don't know, a couple weeks or August or somewhere around there. Or probably he just shows up to training camp and he's ready to go. So
bingo. I think the fact that the future of Luka Doncic is not at least clear to us. I mean, maybe in the back channels there's some more clarity, but because of that, the Lakers really have to show we are in your business. We're in the Luka Doncic business. We are going to have cap space next year. We're going to have cap space, especially in 2027. We're clearing the way for you. And so I think that is what's happening. But as you said, LeBron is not a normal 41-year-old in December. He was just all NBA, as you said, as well. And so that's where it's difficult. Is it, I don't know. It's like, are we expecting him to kind of fall off a cliff at some point here or what, And so, and I think if, I don't know, I still think there's a chance that it's his last season, but man, if he was really entertaining that this was his last year, then I don't know. I feel like this shouldn't be a big deal, right? I think this team is good enough to have a real shot, like unless he was like on the, Thunder or something, right? So I don't know. That's like as all this is going on, I'm slowly starting to think that LeBron really doesn't know when he's going to retire and that he's anticipating playing 2 to 3 more years, right? Or else why have this fuss?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Because if he was playing one last year, why would this be a big deal at all? Right? It'd be like, all right, we're going to play this last year, and then you guys can move on. But this obviously means that he does not want to retire next year, right? Like he still feels like he has a couple years left. And he's said that, like in interviews. He said, like, I feel like I could play to 45. I could play a couple years. It's really just up to me to see if I want that or he wants that. So I think it's interesting. I do see a scenario though where he does just come into the Lakers. They come to sort of agreement that he's going to play out this year. They're going to do their best to try to win or kind of put him in a chance towards a championship. And then next year him being able to be a free agent and pick where he wants to go. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm not a betting man, but I'll put about 95% odds he goes back to Cleveland to finish his career at whatever contract it would be to kind of be there. I just can see that scenario because the odds of Cleveland trading for him are pretty non-existent just because of what they would have to do at this point. So I think like him going there as a free agent makes sense. Or, hey, you saw what the Mavs were today. They were the favorite to land LeBron James all of a sudden in all the odds in Vegas and wherever they make the odds. So there's some interesting scenarios, but it seems more likely like it would be as a free agent versus as a trade.
Yeah, when he's a free agent, I mean, it's again, there's going to just be a certain amount of, like, if he's going to want the max or close to it, there's only going to be a certain amount of teams they're going to be able to do that. It's going to be like the Charlotte Hornets or something. Like, come on. And so so we know, okay, we're going to see what happens this year, right? There's so much. If the Cavaliers win a championship next year, he's probably not going to go them the following year, right? If the Lakers win a championship, I'm not too sure what's going to happen. But what I do know is if he becomes a free agent, the Lakers are probably going to just want to sign a 1-year deal, and it's going to probably need to be team friendly. Because remember that 2027 deal, so he wouldn't. So I don't know. It's very much pointing to that he's going to probably most likely be on the Lakers this year. But I think odds are, regardless of what happens, championship or not, I think it could definitely be his last year in the purple and gold, just because the writing's on the wall, And so, yep, I see Cleveland if he does take a major discount, or if they make some moves to kind of clear the way. Or teams that we spoke of like Knicks, maybe Warriors if they have a down year or something, they trade Butler, something like that, But yeah, it will be interesting. I just kind of need to get to training camp. I think once we get to training camp and he's still there, we got to expect him to be there for the rest of the season at least.
Yeah, I think if the Lakers make one more deal, like the Andrew Wiggins or something like that, where they're getting a pretty good wing player, getting another piece, I think that will kind of let LeBron know that he's probably in a good state and he'll be with the Lakers this year. It'll be interesting to see if they don't do anything and then see where he feels he is in the next couple of weeks. So I'm sure we'll continue to hear a lot of rumors of everything going around, but we really won't know until he shows up on that first day of training camp.
Yeah, I think I was definitely not in any type of negotiations, but I mean, Lakers technically could have offered the 1-1 and had him for this year, and then the next year would have been in the same type of situation, opt-in or not. And that didn't happen, so. That tells you Lakers are really trying to clear the books even for next year too. And they definitely have a couple of guys that are coming off, right? So it's a saga that will continue until we hear that. So you're hearing me out there, or probably not, right? Looks like the Doc is not hearing me, but yeah, I mean, it's the LeBron business is not for the faint at heart. It's always a saga, although it really hasn't been as much, for the Lakers. Like I said, the past 7 years, there's been ups and downs. We obviously know they got their championship in 2020. There was really no signs of him ever leaving, but things, I don't know. I feel like good things, whether I know people may not think it's a good thing, but good things always kind of come to an end, and it's not always like in the best, way possible. You hear me out there yet, or?
Oh yeah. I got disconnected, but we'll be back.
Yeah, we back. Cool. Yeah, I was just kind of doing a little, just LeBron talk. But yeah, I mean, I was just kind of pointing out, like, sometimes, you things don't always end gracefully, right? And I mean, we know that with Kobe, Shaq. It's just the way it is. Kind of the Warriors with Klay Thompson and that bunch and things like that. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
All right, so we'll be on the watch for that. I wanted to get into something that I kind of looked over the weekend, and it kind of came out last week, but we didn't get to touch on it. But was the Jalen Williams injury that he played through the whole playoffs. So if you guys haven't heard this story, essentially Jalen Williams at the end of the season, he had a sprained wrist kind of throughout the season, kind of dealt with it. But at the end of the season against Phoenix, he got tripped up, kind of landed on his wrist. And from what he said is he could feel a pop in his wrist. And the next day had an MRI. His wrist was completely swollen. And he found out that he had a torn ligament in there. It was the scapulolunate ligament. So it's going to affect all the stability in the wrist, affectability of him flexing it, extending it. And this was his shooting wrist, right? So he went into the playoffs knowing that, and they had about 9 days off, to start the playoffs. So he did all the things to kind of get his body ready, get his hand ready. He actually had to change his form, like the way he kind of delivers his shot. They had to figure out what type of tape jobs would work. And one of the things that stood out the most is he said that he had 28 injections throughout 28 plus injections throughout the whole playoff run in order to play. So these injections consisted of cortisone, right? That was the kind of reduce the inflammation, but you could only do a certain amount of cortisone. So that was, I think he had like a max of 3 of those, and the rest were just lidocaine. So that was just for the pain. So he was numbing his wrist before games, which is just crazy to realize that he was playing with a numb hand, a numb wrist, and that was his shooting hand. Isn't that crazy, Eric?
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, they played about 23, 24 playoff games. So you got to figure those 28 were all probably before the game, and maybe just a few others just, during an off days just to make it feel better. And so, yeah, man, like I know because like we obviously cover, the NBA, we covered the playoffs, and we're going to give our, opinion about how players are doing. And I know sometimes we were getting on him a bit, and because he was a little bit, let's be honest, like inconsistent with his scoring, and he was always incredible defensively and hustled. And now we know how and why that was happening. And so it goes to that whole thought of when you have a seed wrapped up, right, in the regular season, rest over rust. Do you play the guys? Do you not? It obviously ended up working out at the end because they ended up winning a championship, and he ended up having a pretty decent playoff. But it could have went sideways real fast. And so it was a game against Phoenix, reportedly, that had happened. And that was, I was just looking right now, I think it was like the third to last game of the season. And so they had played the Lakers those back-to-back games, and then he actually had like 33 points that game. So he had a good game and everything. But yeah, right. I mean, isn't that kind of what we talk about? And so it's a little bit of a freak accident, obviously, right? I mean, I don't think it means that you shouldn't play, because we know what could happen when you don't. But that is the risk when you play in meaningless games, and it could have bit him in the ass. It didn't. But it's something to definitely think about.
Yeah, especially when they have the seed kind of wrapped up. But let's hear neither here or there, right? Like, he was still able to play throughout the whole playoffs, in which nobody actually knew. He wore a compression sleeve throughout his whole his whole arm essentially, and then underneath it was a tape job. So I guess if you saw him in pregame or kind of those pregame shots, you would have seen some tape on his wrist, but nobody really knew at that point, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, he talked about how at one point he wished he could tell everybody because of how much the media was kind of getting on him. And then he had that 40-point game in the finals, and he was like, at that point, he's like, yeah, I wanted to go off and tell everybody what's going on, but obviously you can't do that. But he had surgery at the end of the season. He'll be back to normal by the start of the new season. But I just found it remarkable the fact that he was able to play through that, especially on his shooting wrist, and really deliver a championship and have a performance like that where he had 40 points.
I'm glad.
Hey, go ahead.
No, I'm glad he didn't say anything, right? Because if he's not going to say anything, those bad games, just let us play talk. And once they won it, he obviously his teammates knew, but yeah, pretty remarkable, man. Like it's that he, especially his shooting hand, and he had to be in a lot of pain, and just with your wrist being numb as you're trying to shoot a ball, I just can't imagine. So kudos to him.
Yeah, he said the hardest series for him was the Denver series because of physicality, because he had to go against Joker, he had to go against Porter Jr., just Aaron Gordon. Like he said, he jammed it against Aaron Gordon, and at that point, like when he did that, he felt that he was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get through this series, because it blew up like that next day. He had to get more. He had to get another cortisone shot at that point, and then he had to get more of the lidocaine shots. And so he said, getting out of that, they had to go 7 games in that series, right? And I remember throughout the playoffs, I think it was that series and kind of the Minnesota series as well, he took some hard ass falls. I mean, and like he would just get right back up. But the thing is, you're falling and reaching out with your wrist. Yeah, like I was so surprised that he wasn't he didn't really aggravate it too bad on any of those falls.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the main worry. It's like, look, he's hurt, and it maybe as long as he doesn't get hit there, it's probably is what it is. But it had to be in the back of his mind, like, man, like I'm gonna just re-aggravate this thing, and it's gonna just talk about like playing injured and maybe having a more serious injury that would make you out longer than you really should. Something like that probably could have, been a thought, but
yeah,
luckily for him, he didn't. They won. He got a surgery, got a fat contract extension. So, all is well, but still, man, he went out there and gave it his all, whether if he was healthy or not.
Yes, it was definitely worth it in the end.
Sure.
Now we got to get to our last kind of segment, last player we wanted to talk about, but we had to touch on Paul George. It looks like he was injured in the offseason workout. He injured his knee, and he immediately already had surgery. They did not give the details on what type of injury. However, you can kind of pierce out what the type of surgery it probably was, because if it was a ligament injury, ACL, MCL, they would have like already kind of said that. We would have said like he had a ligament repair. They basically just said he had arthroscopic knee surgery, meaning they went in and probably cleaned something up, which is probably more than likely, if you had to deduce it, like a meniscus injury or some sort of cartilage damage or anything like that. So Paul George is going on 35, I think, right?
It's 35 now, might be
35 now, going on 36, and he's been dealing with. So last year dealt with some injuries. Only played about 41 games for the Sixers, and the previous, I think it's like 5 out of the last 6 seasons he's played under 60 games. So, what are your thoughts on the latest with Paul George? And man, to be honest, the Sixers, because we don't know what we're going to get with Joel Embiid, because he had surgery as well.
We've talked a lot about the East and it being wide open, and that was one team that I think we mentioned that, man, if they could just somewhat for one season only stay as healthy as possible, they might be, the best team out there, or one of the best, or one of the top 2 or 3. But we're not even into August. and PG Paul George is already getting injured during practice or whatever happened, and so yeah, not a good sign at all. He's had a good career, really good career, but the last few years have just been tough, and it doesn't get any better as you get older when you have injuries, especially those knee injuries. I feel like he's always like hyperextending it or, something like that. And so, it's nice that it's still a few months away till the season starts, but yeah, it's not, I could see it being one of these things like he's like not going to be ready for training camp. And then he's going to be like, the season's going to start and like, oh, he's not cleared to play. One of these things was like, oh my gosh, here we go again, right? And he starts in December or something. And so, which is not a terrible thing. You rather him play the last like 50, 60 games than the first 50, 60 games. But, it just seems like it could be going down that path. And, here we go again with those injuries.
Yeah. Likely he had, like a cleanup or what we call like a meniscectomy where they're just removing a portion of the meniscus. And, typically the timeline with those are anywhere that's 6 to 8 weeks of just healing. And then it's usually about 3 months before you kind of come back. So if you're looking at that right now, you're probably looking at like best case scenario, he's ready to start the season. I highly doubt that's going to be the best case scenario. Likely they're going to be cautious with him and make sure he's completely ready so they don't have to go through this all over again for the whole rest of the season. So if he misses the first couple of weeks of the season, that wouldn't shock me at all. The problem is you have two of your star players, both have knee issues, and that's who you're relying on to change your team around this year. And you just, to be honest, you just don't know how they're going to show up or how they're going to be able to play throughout this season. So that's worrisome, especially that this is a new injury, right? This is something that he injured in an off-season workout. It wasn't like something that is from previous season or anything like that. So that's concerning, and we'll see if they can somehow get through this and stay relatively healthy for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he signed a 4-year deal, so this is year 2 of 4. So a long way to go there. And so I hope he comes back strong, and I'd like to see kind of a competitive Philly team. Basketball is in the East is in good shape when they're doing well, and so but I don't know, man. It's like I said, July 15th. It's only July 15th, and we're already talking about Philadelphia 76er in new injuries. It's not like we're talking about previous ones, as you just said. And so, things are not looking good for sure. Yep.
So, had to end the show on a couple injuries. One, a crazy story, and then also just kind of new stuff that's popping up. But as we go through this off season and kind of find out where people will land, free agency, or through injuries pop up, we'll always be there to cover it. But Eric, you got anything else to kind of end the show? Anything else you want to kind of talk about?
No, pretty much covered it. We'll see what happens the next couple of days here, but see if we get any new LeBron news saga. I anticipate August coming and it being kind of a quiet month, which it normally is.
Luka extension
and it might not be so quiet because of that, so that could be a topic of conversation for sure. But yeah, not much on my end.
All right, then. So, as always, everybody, we're going to be on in the next couple of days, probably likely on Thursday, with some news, whatever's going on in the NBA. But until then, the Hoops Rehab team is out, and y'all have a good night. Peace out.
Peace.